Hello friends, and welcome back to another video from Carolina's Cottage. If you've ever been hesitant to cut into a quilt or a quilt top, I'm going to talk about when it may be okay to do that. This vintage quilt top has been in my stash for a couple of years. It does have some damage in a few places. There's a little bit of rust. So when I take these things into account, I feel like it's a better use of it to recycle it into some other projects rather than letting it sit. I had it in my space to sell, but it just did not sell, even with a couple of price reductions. And that could be because no one wanted to finish the quilt and do the quilting, or it could be that most all of these quilts are just an odd size. They are either a full size or double bed size, and it's just difficult to add enough fabric to them to make them fit a queen or a king. And I just think most people are not willing to take that on. After much thought and a little angst, I decided I would cut it up into a few different pieces that I can use on some projects to recycle it, give it a new life, and use it on several things. So I'm hoping that several people will be able to enjoy the works of what some lovely person or people put into this quilt top probably years ago. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and let's see what we can do with this wonderful little quilt top. I just really think about the ladies who worked on this as I look at all of these little tiny hand stitches and the fabrics that were used. I know, years ago people were, I guess like we're becoming more recycle minded. Years ago people were as well, and so sometimes these old quilts and quilt tops were made from clothing scraps. So I always think about those things when I'm looking at these vintage quilts. The first project I'll be working on that I'll use these scraps on, or these pieces of the quilt top, will be a pair of jeans that I'm upcycling to make boho jeans from thrifted jeans. And so I'm choosing some of the squares that have a color close to what the jeans fabric would be. I think that'll just be a nice accent for those. I'll use these pieces to make patchwork squares to sew on the jeans. I'll show you how I attach these squares and what I do to recycle or to upcycle the jeans, and I'll show the outcome in the end of the video. But I would like to ask you to please share this video with others you may know who may enjoy this. To make this easier to sew the patchwork squares onto these jeans, I'm going to take my seam ripper and rip out the outer seam of each leg so that I have better access to sew both on my machine and by hand. And it's really not that hard to do because the outer seam on this pair of jeans does not have the top stitching or the double row of stitching, so it's really just one seam that I have to rip out. And even though I'll be using my sewing machine to attach these patchwork squares, you could do all of this sewing by hand. Once I have ripped out the hem and a few stitches on the seam there, it's fairly easy to just pull apart this outer seam on the leg and open this up. So I opened this seam up to about 3 inches or so from the bottom stitching on the pocket, or the reinforced stitching there just below the pocket. And I'll do the same thing on the other leg. Since this is very thin cotton fabric that the quilt top is made from, I used a very lightweight, fusible interfacing that I could reinforce this cotton fabric with. That's not something you have to do. I think it would be just fine to sew this onto the jeans without the iron-on or fusible reinforcement on the back, but I just chose to do this on my piece. And here's the finished product. I used a few of the patchwork pieces on the jeans and I added some hand stitching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.